All right, who is excited for the NFL draft? We're about 2.5 months away. If you are, hit that like button. Like this video. Let's get 1,000 likes on today's show. And speaking of the NFL draft, we're going to react to the latest mock draft from ESPN. You're watching Bears Now. I am Harrison Graham. ESPN's Matt Miller released a 2-round mock draft, and on today's show, we are going to react to this mock draft from ESPN and, of course, discuss the player that Chicago landed in this mock. And no surprise, number 1 overall, it is Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC. Matt Miller kind of going chalk here. I can't remember the last national mock draft that didn't have Chicago taking Caleb, which I think you guys should take note of here. Here's what Matt Miller had to say. Quote, everyone I spoke to at the Senior Bowl speculated that the Bears will draft Williams first overall and then trade starting quarterback Justin Fields for a package, potentially centered around a second-round pick. That's also what I would do if I were in GM Ryan Poles' shoes. Williams is a unique quarterback prospect with an elite arm strength and field vision, plus an innate ability to create plays from inside and outside the pocket. Fields has taken steps, but Williams' ceiling is a top 3 NFL quarterback. And kind of reading that last part, top 3 NFL quarterback. If the Bears view Williams similarly, like this guy could be top 3, top 5, doesn't it almost feel impossible that they would pass on him? Like, if they really think he could be that good, like, think about what you're saying when you're saying top 3. So, other than Mahomes and insert second best QB, he could be right there. I mean, that's kind of what you need to compete for Super Bowls, right? So if the Bears have that view of him, it almost feels like a no-brainer to select him at that point in time, unless they think Fields can still get there, which top 3 feels like a big stretch, or if they think May or Daniels can get there, which maybe they do, but I don't view them quite as high as I do Caleb Williams, but that's up to the Bears. Pros and cons here, we've talked about this. The elite arm talent, he can do it all inside and outside the pocket. His arm angles, strength, quick release, velocity, deep ball. It's all there. He's got the full package, arm talent-wise. The experience is good. 2.5-year starter, over 2.5 years, really. Production, Heisman Trophy winner, crazy stats, both throwing and running. The creation is incredible. I mean, he just feels it. He feels pressure really well in the pocket. He's able to buy time and do different things. The cons, that incredible creation at times gets him in trouble because he holds onto the ball too long in certain situations. He does try to be Superman too much at times. And the numbers did dip some against top 25 teams. Now, that's not crazy surprising. Typically, quarterbacks come out of college, their production is better against lesser opponents. Real shocker how that works. But I still think it's somewhat noteworthy. I will say this, though. Everyone talks about the ceiling, right? Like Matt Miller's like, he could be a top 3 guy. I actually think the floor is very high, which is why taking him is a pretty good idea, because I think his floor is like average NFL starter, right? And you could argue that's kind of where Justin is right now, right? He's an average NFL starter. He's an incredible runner, but if you combine all the metrics, like with his lower end passing but awesome running, factor in that he hasn't had a great situation, like he's middle of the pack, which isn't bad, and I still think can improve. But if Williams can give you that from day one and grow from there and have 4 years of cheap team control, then that's why you have to heavily consider it. That's why all these guys who do mocks and talk to these teams and cover the NFL draft and NFL and for a living, that's why they all say the same thing, that they're going to draft Caleb. That's where the tea leaves are pointing. So just keep those things in mind when you get into these Justin Caleb debates, which let's try to keep those civil between now and April. Pick a quarterback. Type CW for Caleb Williams, JF for Justin Fields. Let me know which side of the debate you are on, CW or JF. We'll get to the number 9 pick here in just a moment, but it has never been a better time than now to get going with Prize Picks. Rolly and I have made money all season long, up to 25 times our money with Prize Picks, and it's continued as the NBA is going every single night. You got college hoops as well, and one more big football game to throw together some Prize Picks entries, 2 to 6 player entries for Super Bowl Sunday. You can win up to 25 times your entry, which is awesome. $10 to win $250 is awesome. This one is $10 to win $100. Patrick Mahomes, they're giving you a deal, half a passing yard. You take the more there. I like Isaiah Pacheco to find the end zone in this game as well. Deebo Samuel, I think the Chiefs are going to try to take him away a little bit, which could lead to Christian McCaffrey being more of a factor out of the backfield, which is why I got the more on his receiving yards. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get that deposit match up to $100. They'll match it anywhere from $1 to $100 when you sign up. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS. 2 to 6 player entries. You're not playing pros. You're not playing sharks. It's just you versus the PrizePicks stat projection. So get started today. You can make entries in less than 1 minute. This is an interesting one. This is a player we talked about a lot during the season when we were doing some of our earlier mock drafts, that Olu Fashanu could be a player you bring in to protect Justin Fields if he were still to be the quarterback. And he didn't have a bad year by any means, but he didn't take a massive step forward. Like, he was a first-round talent last year and went back to Penn State. He's still a first-round talent. So you kind of see him go anywhere from like 8 to 15 in these mock drafts. Here's Matt Miller again saying, Bears left tackle Braxton Jones is a good but limited player. I would agree with that. He will never be a top 5 NFL left tackle, would also agree. So with the top 3 receivers off the board, talking about MHJ, Odunze, and Nabers, they all went top 8 in this mock. I'm looking at the loaded offensive tackle class. Fashanu is raw, but he has excellent movement ability. He has the potential to become an elite NFL tackle, which is why Chicago skips reaching for a wide receiver or drafting a pass rusher in favor of taking Fashanu as the best player available. Now, that last part is subjective. That's in his eyes. We don't know what the Bears big board says. But I'm certainly not turned off by this idea. And coming up, I do want to go through some different scenarios at the number 9 pick, kind of rank how I would like to see what happened in order of best to worst outcome with that number 9 pick, because I don't think we're talking about that selection enough. Like, it's all about Caleb. It's all about the number 1 pick, quarterback. But you have a second top 10 pick, and there's a lot of different ways it could go depending on what happens with the first 8 selections. But before we get to that, hit that subscribe button. I'm grinding. Rolly's helping me grind 2+ Bears videos per day here on Chicago Bears Now. Sometimes it's 3 or more when breaking news drops. We're also going live right now twice a week, which stay tuned for our second live later this week. We might do Friday instead because the NBA trade deadline's on Thursday. I'm going to be helping out with that, but we will have a second live show at some point. Hit that subscribe button. It's youtube.com/BearsNow. Stay in the know with everything surrounding the Chicago Bears. So this is like my ideal outcome for the Bears at number 9 overall. Priority number 1, if Malik Nabers or Rome Odunze is there, at least at this point, which is first week of February, I would draft one of those players if they're there. You got to get a second receiver opposite of DJ Moore. Based on the current roster, if one of those guys is there, that's like you're on the clock, you turn in the sheet right away type of situation. Number 2, I would take Brock Bowers. If Nabers and Odunze are gone and Bowers is there, I would take him. Number 3, I would trade down. I like edge at 9, but I think between Dallas Turner, Liatu Latu, and Jared Verse, I think at least 2 of those guys are still on the board at this point. So I would be willing to trade down and maybe try to get one of those guys, between 12 and 15 or something like that. Number 4, I would still be comfortable taking one of those edges at 9. I would just rather trade down for one. Same with number 5. I'm okay going left tackle, Olu or Joe All or this Oregon State kid, Fuaga. I'd rather trade down, though, because, again, I think multiple of them are still going to be on the board when you pick at 9. And I think they're close enough that if you want to trade down and get them later, that would be the preferred outcome. Now, it takes 2 to tango. You can't force a trade. You don't know exactly what teams would be interested in trading up. Olu's got great traits, but he had a good year. I didn't think he took a massive step forward from his sophomore season, which is why I think instead of being this unanimous top 5 guy, he's somewhere between 8 and 15. But let's be clear. Left tackle is a premium position. But Braxton Jones is more than serviceable for now. I'm open, even more than open, to upgrading there. If you have a damn good grade on one of these dudes and you're just like, man, you pair him with Darnell Wright for the next decade, you're set. Sure, I'm not closed off to that idea. But if you love one of these edges or certainly receiver, to me, there are bigger needs right now. So I would certainly have other directions I would go in first. But at the same time, I would still be okay with it. I would just prefer in a trade down scenario. One other note, too. Caleb Williams and Olu Fashanu were high school teammates. So it's an interesting thought to A, draft Caleb at 1 if you're going to go there. B, upgrade, at least in theory, at left tackle with Olu Fashanu. Oh, and by the way, that guy already knows Caleb Williams, how he plays, chemistry on and off field you would think would be there. And he's a damn good talent, too. So I certainly would understand the appeal to pair those guys together at 2 premium positions, arguably the 2 most important positions in the NFL. Would you look to upgrade at left tackle this offseason? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I would not look to upgrade, right? Like, there's enough questions with Braxton about his anchor and his neck issue from last year that I don't think it's like should be off the table of taking a left tackle. It should absolutely be considered. I just think other positions are a little more important at this time. Y for yes, in for no. Let me know in the comments section. And then Matt Miller kind of just mentioned he would trade Justin Fields for a second-round pick. That's kind of what he's heard and what he would do as well. Plus more, he said that would be the framework, so maybe it's like a 2 and a 4 or something like that. Now, in this mock, he didn't actually do a trade for Fields to give the Bears a second-round pick. It was a 2-round mock, but Bears don't currently have a second, and he didn't execute a trade for Fields, but he didn't mention that, so I did want to throw that in here as well. And look, let's be honest. If you take a quarterback at number 1, you're trading Fields. I know Ryan Poles didn't close the idea of, well, we could take a quarterback and still have Fields on the roster. I just don't think that's beneficial for anybody. I think in that scenario, you trade Fields. Maybe you go sign a veteran to be Caleb's backup/mentor. So I think that would be a much more likely outcome there. All right, guys. That's it for our mock draft reaction to ESPN. Give us a grade for that mock. A, B, C, D, or F. How do you think Matt Miller did? And be sure to subscribe for more Bears content.